Darko Rajakovic, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing, Basi?
Perfect. Doing good. Good. Thank you. I want to say I'm 11 hours ahead of you. So for you, it's still
Okay.
the for me getting
You
close.
have a long day in front of you.
Yeah, you can say so. But yeah, let's wait for about four, maybe two, 3 more minutes, just so people can log in because we just finished the previous session. I want to say like 8 minutes ago. So still
Okay.
wants the people to get in.
Sounds
But
good.
and
Sounds
are you
good.
guys?
Your English is so good. Where did you learn your English?
Oh, thank you. I was first. I actually was just starting it in studying it in university and in high school in Russia, and then I played college a little bit, and then I played professionally a little bit in South America.
Okay.
I also speak Spanish, but I know that you speak more than that. I think you're fluent in six.
Yeah, I'm counting those ex-Yugoslavia languages, but I do speak Spanish, and I wish I could speak Russian better.
But you probably still can understand.
Yeah. If you would speak slowly, I could understand. Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah, and how did you end up learning Spanish just while you were there with the team?
Yeah, I did not speak Spanish at all, and once I came to Madrid, I mean, not a lot of Spanish people speak English, so I was kind of forced to learn Spanish really quickly. And after like maybe 3 months, I was already coaching whole practice just in Spanish.
Hmm. Hmm. And I
Okay.
feel that it was my cheat code when I was playing because I played in Mexico and in Ecuador, and all the time when the coaches will look at my video and then they will look at somebody else's, and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, he speaks Spanish though. He doesn't." And then like, would rather take this guy because he doesn't even feel like foreigner.
That's a big advantage for sure.
Yeah, this is why when the Russian younger guys when they ask me, what advice could you give us if we want to play abroad? I'm like, man, at least learn the languages, at least learn English so you can talk not just like know it a little bit, but just so foreigners can see you as the person whom they can really make friends where the language is not the barrier.
For sure, it means a lot. I think it's really hard to get accustomed to new culture, to new environment if you do not speak local language,
Mhm.
and it's much easier when you start speaking the language, then you can easier get new friendships and, get to know more people and, all of that. Also, it shows then that you respect them wanting to learn the language. So that's a big part of it.
Mhm. Yeah, agree. So I guess we still have just four people, but I know your time is valuable, so we'll be saving the whole interview and we'll upload it to YouTube later. And I don't want to waste your time just sitting and waiting. I'd rather just get straight to questions. So first of all, let me just welcome everyone here, and I wanted to one second, Brian Walsh is in here. And I wanted to thank you, Coach Rajakovic, for joining us because I know now with NBA being back on pretty soon, I know that it's just your time is valuable.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and I hope I will be able to answer some of your questions.
Yes, definitely. Because when I was watching your clinics or when I was listening to the interviews that you did for Chris Oliver, I was like, man, I gotta ask and see if Coach Yakovic has time to join because this just the information that I got from there is priceless to me. So I really want to start asking you what is playing the right way for you, and if you can talk a little bit about the offensive principles of the Suns this year.
For sure. So I think this is really good question, and I believe that what playing the right way for me means probably it's going to be different for you or any other coach. I think that every coach has preferences of how they would like team to play and execute. And also depends a lot of personnel that you have. You can say that, people, when you talk about playing the right way, everybody would think, okay, that means let's move the ball, let's have big number of passes, everybody touching the ball, everybody's part of the offense. But if you ask Mike D'Antoni if they're playing the right way, he'll say absolutely. And they are number one isolation team probably in the world. Nobody holds the ball more in his hands than James Harden, and they have one of the best offenses in the world. And for them, that means playing the right way, being really, really efficient in one-on-one. For me, my preference is that offensively, my teams are running offense that a lot of people will be involved, that everybody can touch the ball, that everybody can feel the ball. And from my experience, just talking to players, that's what they really want. I was on really good teams with Oklahoma City, and just talking to guys on the team, and everybody's saying, like, all I want is to feel it, not necessarily to get a shot off. I just want to move and cut and catch it. If I have a good opportunity to take a shot, I will. But if I don't, I'm completely fine moving the ball.
Sorry, 1 second.
Yep.
Sorry.
So playing the right way for me means sharing the ball. As I'm getting older and having more experience as a coach, I'm thinking that my offensive philosophy is boiling down to less principles. For me, that's, move the ball, move bodies, find open man. It might be, transition running. I boil it down to a couple of principles, but it was interesting. Just yesterday, we as NBA assistant coaches and head coaches, we had similar session with Phil Jackson, and you're listening to a guy that won everything, and his deal is from his teams both in Chicago and his teams with Lakers. All he was asking from his teams offensively is hit the open man. Everything else is going to take care of itself, but hit the open man. So I think that once you have your philosophy and you know how you want to play, you know what kind of personnel you have. Do you want to put the ball in your best creator? Do you want to put offensive system that's going to allow ball movement and that's going to create good opportunities to get shots? I do think that once you have that, it's much easier to put your principles in. So I always like to say, you got to start with your vision based on who you are and what players do you have. And after that, it's much easier to put principles in and to run offense that you like. For us with Suns this year, big emphasis was ball movement and body movement. And we kind of we managed to do that. Our offense from being 29th in NBA year before jumped to the middle of the pack. I think we ended up being 16th best offense in the league so far. I'm saying so far because season is not over. We're going to Orlando. And inside that offense, we were number one team in NBA in assists per game. So we moved the ball really well. And we were number 4 team in whole NBA scoring off the cuts. So our ball movement and body movement was on a high level. We thought that coming into the first season with Phoenix Suns, we got to establish the foundation and culture the way we want to play. And our head coach, Monty Williams, and whole coaching staff, we firmly believe this is the way we can win games and be a playoff team and make improvement for our team. Obviously, at certain parts of the game, you're going to put the ball in the hands of your best man, and he's going to create shots for himself. or for the team. But once you have that philosophy and put principles in, you gotta keep team accountable. You gotta keep guys accountable. Like they cannot play outside of those principles.
Hmm. Okay, and you mentioned that you were number one in assists, and that was one of the parts of the questions that I had. What was the goal for you per game if you had it, and also how did you try to create that culture in practice where players are willing to share the ball?
Uh, First of all, we lay down our foundation, like our core principles offensively, that were five principles on offense.
Mhm.
And we had five principles of defense that we wanted to stick with and play with. We never talked about, hey, we got to have 25 or 30 assists, because that's kind of like, it can be misleading. You might
Yeah.
hit an open man, he misses a shot, like, what did we accomplish there? So we were kind of following philosophy of number of passes per game. And
Okay.
we always wanted to have above 300 passes per game. So
Okay.
with that kind of bold movement, that we thought and we believe that's going to create opportunities to score, and it turned out well for us. I think that Golden State, with Coach Steve Kerr, their goal is 315 passes per game, and obviously for years their teams were the best passing teams and best offensive teams in NBA. So we followed that philosophy in the practice. Everything that we did was focusing on, when we would run 5-0 or we would play 5-on-5, we would always focus on ball movement, and we would stop a practice and say, hey, that guy was wide open. You have two on you. You got to make that extra pass. So a big part of playing that way is understanding that you have ability to create, to get shots, to be aggressive, but at the same time, you got to honor our principles. And our principles are hit the open man, find open man, which means once you're in the pick and roll and they're going to put two on the ball, we don't want you to force shot over two people. If you have two
Mhm.
good people on you, that means that somebody is open, and you got to be skilled enough, unselfish enough to make that pass and to find open man. Uh, we have young team. We have point guard Enrique Rubio, who was past first point guard. So for us, it was much easier to establish this kind of culture. But I would say, like, working with youth teams, working in Europe, where every team more or less is really good at sharing the ball and playing a team basketball. I think that players internationally, they really understand those concepts, and coaches are really forcing those concepts of playing together and finding the best shot available.
And obviously, with players having a goal of 300 passes per game, they should have that confidence to basically make a mistake. How would you instill players that?
Um, it's we never put pressure on guys to make shots. There is not one
Okay.
player in history ever born to, okay, I want to get in the game, I'm gonna take this shot and I want to miss this shot. Every player wants to make a shot. Every player wants to do well for himself and for the team. So that was never emphasis. Like during whole season, we never told guys like, why did you take that shot? We would build accountability and try to avoid bad shots, but by showing players in the video or through conversation that
Mhm.
somebody else had better opportunity, and appealing to their unselfishness of making the right play, and going back to our principles. Like we would watch film and we would stop film and say, hey, what do you see over here? Well, so and so is wide open. That's what we need. We need to make that pass. Trust your teammate. He's going to knock that shot down. So once you play that way, once you move the ball a lot, it's common thing that you're going to make mistakes. You might have bad passes. You might have turnovers. um, installing confidence that trust the system, play the right way, move the ball, find open man. We're fine with it. Even if you try to make a pass and it was a good idea and you turn the ball over, we're not gonna get really mad about that. And it's interesting that a lot of times, like as coaches, you're like, hey, turnovers are such a big part of winning, losing games. When you look at championship level teams, they're never in top 10 in taking care of the ball. Like best teams, they turn the ball over. San
Mm-hmm.
Antonio, best teams, 5 championships, they turned the ball over quite a bit. Why? Because they were really moving the ball. They had big number of passes. The bigger number of passes you have, it's normal thing that you're gonna have more turnovers. But I think that when you play that way and move the ball, I think the energy of the whole team, the chemistry between the players, trust between the players, it's just contagious. And I think that that's going to really build a team chemistry that's going to allow everybody to feel comfortable playing inside that system and sharing the ball and being aggressive. Like we never want to tell a player like, hey, when you get a ball, all you got to do is like just move it and don't be aggressive. We want every player to feel that he has a freedom to attack, to read defense, to get open shot, to drive the ball. But with that kind of freedom, responsibility also is big. So once we give them freedom and they feel good about it, they will not take advantage of that. And it's always for us, we can always go back and talk about our basic stuff and principles and how we want to play. And we want that way, we want to take away their selfish plays. Are those going to happen in a game? Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially on NBA level where you have like really good players and each of those guys, they think like, I can do this. I can score this. Even if they have a defensive player in front of me or they put two on me, I can make this shot, So it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. But when you stick to it and when players see your real commitment to it, they're going to surrender. They're going to surrender at some point, and you're going to have a style of play that you want for your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And earlier you talked a little bit about a film. How would ideal film session look for you? How long would it be? The reason why I'm asking, most of the vets that I talk to, the ones who played in the EuroLeague, they always start talking. When I ask about the film, they're like, "Oh man, 2 hours or 40 minutes." They're like, "Man, after 20 minutes, I don't want to sound unprofessional, but after 20 minutes, it's hard for me to keep concentrated." So, what would be the ideal setup for video breakdown for you in order to make sure that all the players are staying focused?
This is a great question. I ask the same question every time when I talk to NBA coaches, to coaches in Europe. When I talk to other assistants in NBA, I always ask that question because I think there is always room for us as coaches to get better at it and to improve how we deliver the message. I think
Mm-hmm.
that everything is about delivering the message. I don't think there is a perfect recipe. It's
Mm-hmm.
not 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's not 2 hours. All depends of a message, all depends of situation, all depends who do you have in audience. I would say the one thing that's very important, and you already said that players, you cannot lose audience. Like if players check out, if they're not listening, if they're not into it, they're gonna tune out. So for me, I think the shorter the better, and the clearer message. Like I do not like watching whole game. I think things get watered down, and I think it's not fair to players to watch the whole game because they're going to be parts of the game they were not part of it, and you cannot criticize every single mistake that happened in the game. On us as coaches is to identify what is the most important. And I think that's the hardest part in coaching, to understand what is the most important thing that happened in the practice, in the game, and then you got to address that. It's easy to watch film and go possession by possession. Oh, you should do that. You should do that. Oh, that was good. You should do that. And like it's just like when players finish, when you finish your video session, it's important what stays with those guys. And after a video session, if they are tired and they have 200 information what they were supposed to do better, none of that is going to stick. I like what Coach Monty was encouraging our coaching staff post game. So I'm responsible for offense, and I was always responsible to show offensive clips after the game. And he would always say, 5 clips. You have 5 clips to show offensively. And I was like, when you watch the game, like, this is important, this is important, this is important. Game has, I don't know, anywhere between 105, 120 offensive clips every game in NBA. Then when I break down the film, I have like 30, 40 clips that I would like to show. But then the fun part starts. Like, you got to cut it down to 10, you got to cut that down to 7, you got to cut that down to 5. And it's amazing. The more you're watching those clips, the better prepared you are. You want to address right things. And when it comes down to those last 5 clips, you're really to the point. You're really to the point. And you can address what is the most important thing coming out of that game or practice. The other thing that I think it's very important for when showing film is engaging players. When you ask me, like, what is the perfect video session, I would say that a video session that players talked more than coaches. Because like, when you deliver a message, they're just listening and processing, and each of those guys can process in their little own way. But once they participate and communicate, and if Ricky Rubio is going to say, yes, there, but then he's going to address his teammate and say, hey, DeAndre, I need you to come and set that screen like this. Don't worry, I'll make a pass, you roll. But this is what I need you to do. Don't slip out too early. That's going to really stick with a player. And that's going to have really good transfer in the practice and in the game. So I would encourage every coach to ask questions. I know that coaches are coming ready for video sessions, and they're coming prepared. But you got to give players platform to say what they think, and to help those guys to better understand what you think. And I'm not believer that it's my way or highway. I don't believe in that type of coaching anymore. I really believe that there has to be partnership between coaches, head coach, and players. And the only way you can have that is asking guys what they think, and what they feel comfortable with. Some of the best coaches in the world in team sports, from football, basketball, handball, any team sport, are the coaches that put players in situations where they feel most comfortable. Not what I would like them to do, but where players feel comfortable. And one of the best in that was football coach Radomir Antic, the only guy that coached Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Athletic, 3 biggest teams in Spain. And he was that. Like, I had a chance to watch his practices with Serbian national team, and he would touch every single player. He would talk to every player. He would get a feedback from each player, and always with positive, always with good energy. And he would put those guys in situation that they can be successful. And it really makes our job fun. Players have fun with that. Learning is a 2-way. We're learning from players, and players are learning from us. And that's why I think that open communication is so huge, and in video sessions, that's even more amplified.
And talking about the short video sessions, were you always like that, or it came up with the experience that you had?
As I said, like, short video session, it might be only 5 clips, but conversation might be 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't believe in 2 hours, 1 hour long film sessions. I do not believe in that. I think it has to be to the point. It has to be short. I was never showing like 2 hours. For me, that's punishment for everybody. Like me personally, I do not like that. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do, and I'm sure there are coaches that are doing that and they're really successful, maybe even more successful than I am. And there is no recipe for those things. Every coach has their own principles, their own philosophy, and there are so many different ways to skin a cat. But for me, I think the more direct, the more concrete, the more clear. Our job is to provide clarity. When you finish your film session, if the whole team, players and coaches are on the same page, you did your job. You just got to move on. And especially on NBA level, we have so many games. Games are coming at such quick pace. Like you don't want to overkill your players and coaching staff and to do too much too early. Then over the course of the season, everybody becomes just like terrified. Okay, another film session. And they sit there and they just tune out. You want to have your audience there. You want those guys to be looking with you with open eyes, and when you look at them, that you see that that you have audience. A lot of times when I'm presenting scouting for the opponent, I really like. I don't like just to watch a video and not see crowd in front of me. I like to watch players and I like to
Oh,
engage them. And if I see that some player starts going, left or right and using eye contact, I would ask them questions right away. What do you think about this? And they would be right away. They would zoom in and be ready to contribute to the meeting and conversation.
And so in such situation, if you see that the player is not paying much attention, you ask him and you see he's not able to give you the answer, would you punish him or what would you do in that situation?
Okay, you were a player, right? And coach
Yeah.
calls you out, and you know you were not ready. How do you feel? You feel
I'm
probably
sure.
embarrassed, shocked,
Yeah.
and your teammates are looking at you, coach is looking at you. I think that's enough punishment. I'm sure the next time when you come in video session, you will be like, wake up and ready to answer questions. And
Hmm.
from my experience, like that always works. That always works. Like and guys like after that, like they're really really logged in. We had a funny situation with Steven Adams in Oklahoma City. You know, and you could see that sometimes he will lose his focus. That was early in his career, maybe first or second year. Second year, it was Billy Donovan was head coach, and we would present something, and in the middle of it, like Billy would ask him, like, and Steven, well, he would ask him a question, he did not know, and Steven Adams turned to be like probably the best assistant coach you can have. Like right now, he's like so logged in, and he knows every detail, and he knows how much those video sessions actually help in preparation for the game. So I think it's enough punishment just to call them out and keep them on their toes.
That's a great point because as of now, a lot of coaches I know they mostly try to punish the player even more, and the player starts to lose motivation even more, and you basically lose him. But the option that you're given is just it's a perfect one.
There you
So
go.
I have a couple more questions. You obviously had a great success with developing players, and when you were with Tulsa, a lot of players got called up in the NBA. How do you build that in-season development?
Uh, Another great question. So I'll make small regression.
Hmm.
There are a lot of coaches that start thinking, okay, result is the most important thing. Like I gotta prepare tactic for the game so I can win games. And I understand that. There is a lot of pressure on coaches, maybe coming from the front office or fans, or if you have a great drive, you're gonna put pressure on yourself. Like you don't need anybody else to put pressure on you. You want to win, and you start putting a little pressure on you. So once you become obsessed about result and outcome, then then you're coming up with the tactics and strategy how you're gonna win those games, and then kind of like at the end is like player and player development. I learned this from great coach Ranko Žeravica, God rest his soul, and he was one of the legendary coaches in ex-Yugoslavia, and the guy who was coaching the Olympic team, national team, Partizan. He was together with Professor Nikolic. He was a godfather of Yugoslavian basketball. And when I was living in Spain, I was lucky enough that he was living there at the same time, and we were coaching together at some basketball camps. And I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him. And he was always saying, player is always the most important thing. Improve your player, get better with his skill set, understanding the game. When player becomes better, he will be more equipped to execute your strategy and your tactics. And you know what? That result is going to take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
even before I talked to him about that, like that was kind of like my idea, how I always worked with youth teams in Serbia. When I was coaching teams in Spain, when I was coaching in development league, that was always the most important thing for me. I want those players to improve. And I can proud myself that in every season that I coached, and that's 24 seasons now, my teams always look better at the end of the season than start of the season. And this kind of approach, I contribute that to this kind of approach. When players are improving, and I think that every season, no matter what level you're playing, it might be youth program in Europe, it might be high school in US, it might be college or NBA development league, you got to have your player development program in, and you got to focus on developing those guys. You want every player to reach his full potential. And in season, they can get better with ball handling. They can get better with passing. They can get better with pivoting, with shooting. You got to focus on things that are general things that they got to get better at. But also you got to focus on a very specific thing for each player, what he needs to do, how he needs to get better. And I think you can always find time to dedicate to players. And for me, in development league, so just to give you perspective, every pre-game in G League, development league, or NBA, American way of doing warm-up before the game is one coach with one player get his own shots for 10-15 minutes. So I did not do that. When I was in G League, I had my point guards, shooting guards, or wings. I had power forwards, position 4, and I had fives. So I had 4 groups of guys. And I would have those guys to work out together before the game. Point guards just working on their things, shooting guards on their things. And now inside of that, every drill that you put, and it's the same drill for everybody, you can focus on different things. Like this guy, he has a bad balance on a shot. I'm going to focus on that. He needs to get better with that. The other guy, he's not setting up his man on screen. You can focus on that and work on that. So I think it's always evolving program, and always you got to focus on how you help the guys to get better. On NBA level, very similar. Every pre-practice, every pre-game, put a lot of emphasis on player development. And I'm always telling guys, I'm going to hit you much heavier at the beginning of season and stop a lot and teach you details, because there is room for improvement. Once you master those things, you'll be able to go faster through things. But I can always remind you and just have quick hitters how to refocus them, or like, hey, you're not low enough when you're handling the ball. You're not following through on your shot. You might spend much more time early in the season to teach those things and to explain why and to get a feedback from players. But later on in the season, it can be just like quick hitters, and it really helps players. They start feeling more comfortable. They feel that you're invested in those guys, that you're available for them, and that's how those guys get better. And once they see that in the game they can use some of those things, and it's going to help them, it's going to help the team, you will have the complete buy-in.
And talking about the pregame work that you mentioned, would it be the same for starters and non-starters as far as intensity?
No, no. It, it can be starters, non-starters, but also it's are you in your first year, second year, or your vet, you know. So the more minutes guys are playing, the longer they're in the league, they have more experience, they
Mm-hmm.
know what they need, and you can get a pulse. Like every time when I was working with some older guy, veteran in the league, I would always ask him like, "What do you like to do?" Like, and we would start.
Yeah.
That would be always starting point because those guys they know their own bodies, they know how hard they need to go, they know how to prepare themselves for the game,
Mm-hmm.
and player development with veteran guys and heavy minute guys, it takes less. It's not it's not as much as it might be for a rookie coming in the league or a young player who's like 2-3 years in the league and he's still working on getting better. For those guys, it has to be not just higher intensity, but volume also. The minutes and then the time they spend on the court has to be longer.
Yeah, it's hard not to agree with that. When I was with Aaron Jackson, who won the EuroLeague with Ceska, and we were in China together, some pregame workouts or even like independent workouts, his goal would be, okay, Aaron, now your goal is not to sweat because I don't want you to be sweating just so your body's not thinking that you're training again. Because if you do, you're already 33, and we don't need to put that extra volume on your body.
Yeah, everything depends on the guy, but working with top players in NBA, it's amazing that those guys are creatures of habits, and they have their own routines. Like Russell Westbrook, his pre-game, it's always the same. Since his second year in the league until today, it's always the same. He has the same routine, how he's getting twos, how then he gets like three free throws in between, never four, never two. Then he goes into post up, pull up, twos, threes. It's always same routine. Kevin Durant is the same way. Tim Duncan with San Antonio is the same way. Every single move they do, it just gives those guys confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
they know what they need. But when you get kids that comes from college and a rookie in the league, and like they need so much work to get better and improve, and they don't have established routines, and they don't know what they really need to get ready for the game. Like that's when you use that opportunity to develop those guys and to build their routines and to build something that's going to stick with those guys for their whole career. So
Mm-hmm.
planning of those workouts and what you can do, it has to be really, really simple but straight to the point. When I always use the training camp and I try different things with young guys and focus on different things pre-game. I'm talking about pre-game. And once we start the season, before the start of the season, I'm gonna sit down with the player and ask him like, "What do you like there? What would you change? Is there anything that you need there? This is why we're doing that." And there is gonna be a lot of things that we're gonna put on their plate. But once we start, we do not change that routine for the whole year. 82 games, every pre-game is gonna be the same. They're gonna do the same thing. And because there is a lot of things into that, it might be 10 different drills, and in every drill there are like at least 10 things that you can focus on and improve on. You got to be really selective what you're doing, how you're doing, and to use the whole season, all the time, to slowly improving those segments. And players, they really like that. They really enjoy the process of developing those skills.
And talking about those segments, those goals, how many goals would you set during the season for players individually? Would they be per month or season in general?
So I learned a lot when I came from Europe, when I came to development league, and when I was part of the Oklahoma City Thunder system. And we had, he was not GM, that was not his title, but we had one guy called Paul Rivers. And he is the master of planning things. And I learned so much from him. So we had the whole process of how whole player development should look like. What are the goals, to have a feedback from goals, to keep the track of everything. Every week we had a meeting with him regarding each player, talking about like where they need to get better, how they can get better at. So through that process, I learned that less is more. Less is more. If you put, same thing like with video, if you focus on 10 things, players might not, they might not remember one thing, and they will definitely not know what is the most important thing. It's the same thing with the player development. If you're working on so many different things, they're going to lose the track what is the most important. As goal setting, I think you have two sets of skills. You have general skills, ball handling, passing, shooting, pivoting. That's general skills. Every player, 1 through 5, they need that. They need to work on those things. And then you have very specific for that player. On those general basketball skills, I don't think you have to put time frame. It's an ongoing thing. They constantly need to get better and tighter with those things. But when it comes to very specific goal to a player, I think that one offensive thing, one defensive thing is the right approach. And I'm saying this because if you put, for example, finishing at the rim for a player that needs to get better at that, if you're really focused on that, and that's like you provide feedback and numbers and you teach it every single day, it's going to constantly be on the mind of that player. Every time in the game, he's going to be thinking how he can get better with that. And once you track those things, I think you can master those things in shorter period of time. Once you master that one thing, you might talk to a player and say, okay, we'll continue working at this, but right now let's focus on your pull-up shot, for example. Coming right hand, going to the left side, into left, right, into pull-up shot. And you can focus on that because he's using that shot in game and he needs that shot in the game. You can use shorter period of time to really focus on that, put it on his mind, and he can be really focused to master those things. I think that one goal at a time is the right approach. And once you have that one goal on the mind, there is more chance for you to master that and to move on to the next thing. I think that over the course of one season, if player can master one or two things, that's huge improvement. That's what we talked about. If he masters those two things over the course of the season, two things on offense, two things on defense, he's going to be a better player. Like if you're trying to get him better at 15 things offensively and defensively, I don't know where that's going to go.
And how often would you give a player a heads up on his progress?
Once a week, talk, show him numbers. After every game, watch video. But once a week is going to be just that meeting that's going to be like, this is what we did this week. Those are the numbers. This is where we need to get better at. Just once a week, ask them, what do you think? Where we need to get better at? Do you feel comfortable doing this? Like, is there anything you would like to do different? Is there a drill that you would like to try? You gotta talk to guys. You gotta ask them questions. So that way they're gonna have complete buy-in in what you're doing.
Hmm. I love that part about communication, that it's not only you telling the player what to do, but actually you getting the feedback from the player, what he likes and what he feels is needed more. Because to me, that's also a two-way street. No way you can tell him what to do when he's not just thinking.
Absolutely. I think sometimes that we as coaches that we think of ourselves that we are too important.
Hmm.
I don't think that ever happened in the history that somebody bought a ticket to go watch basketball game to see the coach. That's not gonna happen. Fans they don't go to see coaches. They go to see players. And we as coaches we need to be service for players. We need to serve those guys for those guys to get better. We are there to guide them, to guide their improvement. That's why we gotta listen to those guys. We gotta listen like
Hmm.
why, what they like to do, how they like to do it, where they need to improve. Sometimes you might be working on something and player is not comfortable to use it in the game, and then you gotta sit down with him and say like, why is that? But coach, that's not my game. you know what you're gonna do there. Are you gonna completely quit working in that? That's an option. But you gotta ask those guys, okay, that's not your game, but what is your game? How do you think you can get better finishing at the rim? Maybe drills that you're doing, that's not the right thing. Maybe you would like to do something else. I'm completely fine. But that way they're gonna take ownership. They're gonna
Hmm.
feel like this is on me and coach is here to help me. Not
Hmm.
coach is forcing me to do something I don't feel comfortable and he's gonna punish me and I'm gonna run sprints and after that, okay, I'll try to do it. But now he's forced. Now he's forced. I don't believe that's the right approach. I think that you gotta be smart when you choose players for your team and sign players for your team. And once you do that, then you gotta trust those guys. Trust has to be built.
Hmm. And I hope all the coaches who are listening, they take notes of that, because that's important. That's big in developing players. And I know we have only about 9 or 8 minutes left. I only have a couple of questions left, and if people have more questions, you're more than welcome to type it in the chat, and I'll ask Coach Rajakovic. So, and I think there's already one. What type of players do you want to see in your team based on character, habits, and what about youth player who just become a pro and join the team?
That's a great question there. I think you just answered it in a question. I think character is the most important thing. I think when you talk about character, you're talking about uh, unselfish. You're talking about players' love for the game. I think that one is so important. There are players that play the game and they don't really love the game. What I mean by that is he's tall, he's gonna be 2 meters 10, and somebody told him you cannot be offensive striker. Just go and play basketball. Okay, I'm gonna play basketball. It's good money. It's a good living. Low players they like the perks of being professional player, but they don't really love the game. So that one is really really important. When you talk about unselfish, San Antonio and Coach Pop, they always say check your ego before you enter the practice facility. Check your ego out. Leave your ego out. Like over here, we're here for the team. It's not about just you. There is something much bigger than coach and yourself. There is a team, and you want those type of guys on your team. When you have those type of players on your team, it's much easier. Second part of the question is regarding youth players joining the team. Uh, I think that one is really important. For somebody to join NBA team, for somebody to join pro team in Europe coming from youth program, those guys, they have to be like really successful and really good in what they do at that level. So what it means is now when they come to NBA, when they come to CSKA Pro team, they're coming like with the idea like I was star on the junior team. Everything was played through me. Well, that's not going to be your role anymore. So having guys that are humble as a part of the character and have humility, it's so important. And that's every year. That's what we see when we get youth players to join NBA teams. Those guys think like, okay, I'm coming over here and they're going to run everything through me. Well, unless you're Zion Williams, I'm not confident 100% that that's going to be the case. So just having guys that are going to understand that they gotta start over and build their trust with coaches and teammates is a huge part of the equation.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That was a great answer to a great question. So I got the next one. What would you suggest to international coaches who want to work in the NBA or G League? How can they make it happen?
Every road for every coach is different,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the most important thing is don't give up. And second most important thing is connections. Reach out to people, make friendships. That's the only way. Uh, it's really hard for anybody to hire somebody on a coaching staff and to hire him to be head coach if you don't know that person personally. And just look at the career of Nick Nurse. I was coaching in development league when he was coaching with RGV in development league. We played against each other. He's a couple of years older than I am, but look at his road. He just won NBA championship and he was coaching in UK. And we know that UK is not the best league in Europe, right? And the chances were against him that he's going to get an opportunity, get a chance. Always work on your craft, always try to get better, reach out to people, create connections, and trust in God. God is going to, he needs to do his part as well.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And we have next one from the young coach from Serbia. How would you change negative attitude and bad body language of young players? How you make them think more positive for the next shot after a miss? What would you tell them?
Wow, that's really good question, and I'm dealing with the same problem with our guys, and it's never ending story. A lot of things that in this regard, it comes from long track of mentality of that player. It's not easy to change that. Some guys, they're just like, they would like everything to be perfect, to make every single shot. They put so much pressure on themselves, and if they miss one shot or make one mistake, it's hard for those guys to move on. And on that Zoom call that we had yesterday with Coach Phil Jackson, he was using that with his teams in Chicago and Lakers. And what he used was meditation. Meditation and mindfulness, and he was saying just like try to be present in this morning, in this moment, and you gotta be be ready to move on to the next thing. And he started with 3 minutes meditation, just being quiet, then 5 minutes, and he would improve that. And also he had a professional who was helping him with that. That's something that's not available for majority of our coaches in Europe. And that's a tough one. Sometimes you will not be able to change that. It's going to stick. It's just going to stay what it stays. Like any kind of punishment, it's not going to work. Any kind of like reward, it might work for a short period of time. But I would say like we as coaches, we need to be more positive as well. if we expect from players from them to be positive about outcome of the play and to move on to the next thing, like we need to do the same thing.
Hmm.
Sometimes in timeout, you don't have to come in and say, 3 minutes ago we had that turnover and just like we are coming with all the negative stuff. We got to be able to let some things go, and that's what I talk about. Like when I said, like, we got to address the most important things. We cannot address every mistake that player makes. But and then at the end of that conversation, Phil Jackson said, like, he believes that this generation today, it would be much harder to do that than it was with guys that he was coaching back in the day. So it's $1 million question. If you have some better ideas, I'm willing to listen and learn. I would like to know the answer for that one as well.
Hmm. And you mentioned the professional that worked for Phil Jackson's team. His name is George Mumford, and his book is actually about mindfulness. It's just a great one. So
Yep.
that's for the coaches who are listening. I would recommend checking that one for sure.
He was talking about him actually. That was the guy that helped him with a team, and they were lucky to get him with a team and to implement those things. That's really good one.
Hmm. And the last one that I have, what advice would you give to younger self when you were either just coming to States or you were in your first year of coaching in Spain?
I would say just be more patient. I think that's one thing in my case that I put a lot of work in. I'm always trying to be ready and prepared, and a lot of times I expect that those results will come right away. And I'm still struggling with that one. I need to be more patient, and I need to, allow things to develop on their own.
Hmm. Got it. And that's a great answer to finish it up. Well, I wanted to thank you very much for your time. That's priceless. And
Thank
for
you,
all the coaches who
guys.
tuned in, thank
I
you as well.
appreciate it. If you want, you can share. I'll put it on the chat. I'll add my phone number and email. So if you
Mhm.
guys have any kind of question, if I can help you any way, regarding basketball, I'm looking forward to.
Okay, okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you'll message me your email and I can share with.
I'll just put it right now. I'll put it right now on the chat so you guys have it. There you go. All right.
All right. Thank you again for your time and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.